Oh, how I would watch intently as these young black stand-up comedians told jokes that ranged from sexuality to spirituality, back when I assumed the two were opposites. I was enamored with the different ways these brilliant minds embodied comedic sensibilities and how they created worlds of alternative meaning that gave me a break from the reality I was living. Whether it was Bruce telling a story about talking shit to an old black church woman in the middle of service when he was a kid, or some more breaking open the sexual dynamics of black intimate relationships, or Tyler Craig's fake drunk routine, where he would draw out these elaborate stories, giving glimpses of hilarity along the way before offering the real punchline, which was always preceded by, "The moral of the story is." Black comedians gave me a peek behind the curtain of my own cultural reality, but in a much more unfiltered way. He was a coach that cared about me, and he believed in me. And similarly to my dad's reminders to play the game, I knew exactly what Coach Ritterman meant each time he offered this loving critique. Pay attention, because we both know you are better than that. And he was right, because athleticism was my craft. It was embodied art to me. I poured myself into developing my craft and used it as a tool because sport felt like my best chance at making it in life, even though I was a straight A student. It simply made more sense when I looked at the images of successful black men that populated my world, whether in my familial network or on ESPN. I studied sport every day, rep after rep, until all the conditioning I had done was second nature, and the once mindful movements that made me excel became muscle memory. I still find myself dishing out dead legs and spinning around corners, or the kids, in my home because my brain simply cannot forget what has been downloaded and what worked so well for so long. Being an athlete was always for me another way of paying a deeper kind of attention to life, a full-bodied attention. But what I appreciated most about pastoral theology was how interdisciplinary it allowed me to be. By nature of trying to understand the human from all angles in service to constructing more adequate models of care for marginalized people, pastoral theology left the analytical door wide open for the comedian and the athlete to return. In hindsight, they had been with me the whole time, just waiting to be let in. The comedian reminded me that life is a charade, a political game we play that has material consequences. This caused me to see the tragedy of white supremacy more deeply, the despair, the fact that George Floyd didn't have to die, nor did Trayvon Martin or Emmett Till. And the comedian is relentless. He continues to show me the absurdity of men who murder black boys because they are sanctioned by a state of being that makes this behavior culturally acceptable because of a caricature. Or women that fear or fancy black men because of the same caricature. Not to mention those of us black men who buy into its seduction. The comedian sees the slippage in political life, stresses it even. He understands how a situation could go sideways or stay on track based solely on how we act in concert with whatever lies we believe then embody in relation to each other. Refusing to let me look away, the comedian is hell-bent on revealing to me the relational science of racism in a way that would haunt me if it were not for the athlete, who looks deeper. He comes to the conversation with an optimism that is based in a deep knowledge of the body and its interworking. The athlete reminds me how important laughter is for the body, for the brain, the heart. But the comedian, being the cynic he is, always chimes in. Shit, imagine how bad white supremacy is then for the body, the brain, the heart. I laugh. Remembering his training, the athlete retorts, but what about the possibility of our bodies? Let's not forget about the neurophysiological changes that could happen if people took the comedian's insights seriously. Not to mention how this might translate into embodied action to the contrary. After all, the athlete is an incurable optimist. The comedian, not so much. But what about probability based on political design? Or the fact that people embody white supremacy in ways they don't even realize? Touché. The athlete, beginning to feel witty himself, says sarcastically, yeah, but remember that political slippage you were talking about? How a situation could go either way based on what we believe, then embody in relation to each other? Beginning to retreat, the comedian asks, but how do you get people to believe something about black men when they can't even see how the caricature has convinced them that we are not human? The athlete smirks. You show them how none of us are. This book is born from the witty banter within me, informed by the fields on which I have played.